birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me, yeah.
Today is Saturday, June 14th. What is going on, Hive? I hope everybody is having a wonderful Saturday morning. Mrs. Birdie and I went on a date last night. As I've said, Monday through Thursday and Sunday nights are a guarantee that I will be streaming at 7 p.m. Central. Friday is a crapshoot, but sometimes I have to take the night off and take my lovely wife on a date. So that is what we were doing last night. And today's going to be a good one. Today is going to be about the Idaho 4 case and how it has a lot of the same common denominators that Psy-Ops, well-known, documented, mainstream Psy-Ops have. So buckle up, grab your tinfoil hats, because I would argue that this is one of those quote unquote forbidden theories that has seemed to gain steam over the last few months. And before I say what's up to the Hive, I just want to say that I was doing an experiment on TikTok where I was reposting videos about WITSEC, about PSYOP, about how none of this adds up, that I posted back in like March and April. Such a different response. Minimal comments saying that I'm crazy. And I think that it's becoming more normalized that people can wrap their heads around that this doesn't make any sense. And so shout out to the Hive for helping spread the awareness that this stuff goes on. So anyways, that is what we're going to be diving into today. Mrs. Birdie says, hi, everyone. Happy Saturday. We got D Smalls, April rain showers. Elmo Rupert's in the house. We got Holly. We got Nicole. We got Karen tuning in from the UK. Social Glow. What is going on? Date nights and Hive and mornings is right. Happy Saturday, Mercedes. Good to see you. Mrs. Birdie Shannon says hi. Kaylee tuning in from the UK. What time is it in the UK right now? How's it going, Halo Art? Thank you, TK. Appreciate that. South Africa. Unbelievable. Another UK. This is great. Wow, I did not know that. 1111. There was a list of content creators who were being called out for spreading conspiracies, and you, Birdie, were not on it. Well, I'm okay with not being on that. Shout out to the Midwest as well. Hive Down Under, Miss Q tuning in from Australia. 1 a.m. in Australia with Marion. Scotland's the most northernly point. That's awesome. Another Melbourne, Australia. 420 in Ireland. Blaze it. What's going on, Woman Power? Where else is everyone tuning into? We got Crazy Cutie tuning in from hot ass Florida. We got the Netherlands, Bellingham, Knoxville, Tennessee, Lake Point, Utah. We are happy to do it, Halo. Oklahoma. That movie Twister is great. Tennessee, Texas, Kansas City, British Columbia, corrupt Idaho, Nicole says. New York City, Washington, Alabama. I really want to say War Eagle, but I will say Roll Tide if CJ is in here too. Another New York, South Carolina, Pensacola, another North Carolina, Indiana. Got the jersey on today. Minnesota, what's going on, Claire? Monique's tuning in from Oklahoma. None of our we had a Scotland friend. We had our Scotland friend here. We had someone in here from Asia the other day, which is crazy. All right. Well, thank you all for tuning in today, Hive. I have a couple of exciting announcements and reminders. Another quick reminder, the Hive Mind merch is now available. Guys, I am looking for ideas for more merch to add. While I like to think of myself as a creative when it comes to merch, whether like I could do t-shirts, I could do whatever. I got a good manufacturer that can do a variety of products. So if you guys want something, let me know. Send it to me, birdiebombshell00@gmail.com. And on this next slide, I am very excited and grateful to one of the members in our hive, and that is our very own Dawn has gone and gotten Birdie hooked up on Discord. Now, there may be some people that don't exactly know what Discord is. So I'm going to try to quickly explain this, and I'm going to explain this, and hopefully people see the value in this. The link is on my YouTube channel, so you would just click more over by my username here, and the link, it says join the Hive Mind Discord. You click that, you'll be able to get in. And so what is the Discord? I have been saying this is the Hive's headquarters for off-stream deep dives. So it's a messaging board. Dawn has gone and set up a variety of threads. So we have our rules, which are pretty similar to here in the chat. The social media stuff that I'll be posting, live announcements, merch. And then we have making friends, general chat, being grateful. What are you currently looking into right now? The Hive Mind finds will be on there. Idaho 4 case chat, Idaho 4 investigation videos. Is there anyone in law or a detective, or does anybody know somebody that would want to be interviewed, essentially? Plus, there's also the ability to do streaming and any kind of like audio chat rooms. This is 100% free. It's going to stay absolutely free. So all you'd have to do is download that app or access it on whatever browser you use. I would recommend the app. It's really easy. It took me a while to kind of learn, just because I've never set it up. So that's why I want to give Dawn such a big shout out. So her and Mrs. Birdie will be in there helping out with that. But I think it's going to be a great place so that we can all continue to dive into stuff. This will slowly transition to where we will have the Hive Mind finds be submitted to. You'll always still be able to email me, but it'll be interesting because it's going to be able to really show like what's a Hive Mind find that more people need to see. So anyways, that is in the bio on my YouTube channel, as I said. And I am very, very excited about that. Last night, there was already a handful of people that had found it already. So you'll also get updates on streams. Like, for example, last night, me and Mrs. Birdie go on a date. I will post in there on Fridays if it won't happen. I posted in there this morning, hey, happy Saturday. I'm going to be going live at 10 a.m. So most times I'll post a video update, but regardless, the Discord is going to be very, very useful for those types of things. So again, it's completely free to join. I hope to see you all in there. That will be the Hive's headquarters for off-stream deep dives. So I also just wanted to touch on this again. Tomorrow at 4 p.m. Central, make sure you guys go and subscribe and turn the alerts on to Surviving the Truth if you want to tune into that live stream with myself and Kelly Patterson, who is a sex trafficking survivor. Her goal in reaching out to myself and the Hive was to try and get that topic, being trafficking, talked about more in the true crime community. And so I am looking forward to being on her show. She will then be on my channel mid-July, which when that time gets closer, I'm going to probably on the Discord, or you guys can email me it, but I'd like to compile a list of questions that you guys would all want Kelly to answer. So moving on to the Hive Mind finds, I thought this was so interesting. And this person, if you guys remember when we had Allie Benevento on, and she told the story about the homeless gentleman who was drunk and passed out, where an EMT came and put the pulse ox on his finger, and then that same EMT drove 50 miles up the road to a rich IT businessman who died, and then they found the homeless person's DNA under his fingernails because it was touch and trace DNA transferred from the pulse ox from the EMS. That homeless man was convicted of murder, and he was exonerated, but only after they figured it out. So it just shows how fragile touch and trace DNA is. It relates to what I was sent in an email where it says, this person in the Hive said, I'm at the doctor, and the nurse that took my oxygen test, I asked her about how often do they clean it, and then told her the story of the transfer DNA, and she was shook. She said, honestly, we clean it at the end of the day, she says, but now that I'm bringing that up, I'm going to be bringing that up at our next meeting. She then said, girl, I'm going to go clean it now. So talk about that story of what Allie had shared with all of us here in the Hive, and just how even kind of shocking that is to people in a hospital setting. So shout out to who submitted this, because I love hearing stuff like this where you take what you hear in the streams and then you go and pass it along in your everyday life. This, hang on, I'll get out of here. So this next one, if you were on the stream a couple of days ago, you guys remember we watched that dark web video where Thundercat bought a pair of boots that were covered in blood for whatever reason off of the dark web. I'm just going to let this play. And I have this warning. Not that anybody in here would. Never buy anything off the dark web. And you guys will see why. As if that we needed any more reason to not. He was being tracked. Okay. So he cut off the heel of the boot, and there was a literal sensor in it. I'll play it again. Oops. It's lit up. It's flashing. So, yeah, none of us, let's all make a collective promise that none of us are going to do anything like that. That's insane. That is insane. All right. Now, this next Hive Mind find is a YouTube comment. I don't know when this is from, so I will give that disclaimer. I'm not sure when this came out, but I did find it interesting. And it's allegedly Sergeant Bisker. Oops. I need to get this banner up. There we go. Allegedly, Sergeant Bisker knows Brian and his dad back in Pennsylvania, and he got Brian interested as a teen in being in a task force. Sherlock Rome saw a picture of the two together at a hotel conference in Strasburg, Pennsylvania. Said the picture is removed now, but the topic is trafficking. Brian K. is allegedly a federal agent working on a task force working to bust drug and human trafficking. Brian was investigating Pornhub because the frats were allegedly drugging and essaying and filming sorority girls and making smut movies to sell and make money for U of I and Greek Row. Also, Jack D allegedly punched King Gonzo out that night. So there's a lot there to unpack. This is all alleged. But the rumors about somebody being in the hospital that morning, the rumors about stuff being filmed, the rumors about Brian Koberger potentially being a federal agent. There's a lot there. Is it a stretch? Maybe. But you guys know what we do here in the Hive. We look into everything. We read it. We intake the bits of information that might make sense, and we logically bridge build. And with this case, there's really nothing you can count out. I think we all know that.
And then when
this next Hive Mind find is an interview from Steve, and the person that sent me this said it really seems like Steve is being genuine here. They were doing like a pay it forward for people that raised money around town for Kaylee. But I clipped a couple minutes of this stream, or sorry, of this interview, this documentary that followed him around for the day. And I just want you guys to listen to what he says, and then we'll break it down.
And then when this happened, I was like, who in Idaho would do this? Who would be capable of doing that in our community? And I remember talking to one of the officers. We've always tried to put some emphasis on saying we appreciate all the hard work, everything that they've done, and we know that we would not have justice without those men and those women. We were just in the court, a few weeks ago, and we got a little bit of time to talk to Thompson, and Thompson was, he said, it could be 3 years before you guys have any answers. And I was just like, wow, that's hard to hear. So
what would you most like answered?
I want to just see the evidence, really. I just want them to come out and say, this is our case before, this is what they got to prepare for. I mean, they have it, so let's just bring it out. I don't understand how that can be the truth. How can that be something that's going to continue?
Hold on. We're going to dissect that. Is this true? Hang on. Is that true? Was that guy who ordered the boots actually murdered last night? Or are you trolling? The guy who ordered the boots off the dark web, somebody just said he was murdered last night. Yes. I'm trying to look it up. No, wait, hold on. Well, I don't see anything popping up on the news, but what's interesting is that when I was typing it, like, look, see, it auto fills. And there's nothing. I wonder if he did. When do you ever see no other articles pop up? Yeah, Awesome Town Matt said that. Is that Matt? Where did you find that? Unless, and if you're trolling, that's fine. But I know people have said he's been MIA. Holy cow, if that's true. Sorry, chat. This is crazy. Oh. Well, if it's a troll, whatever, I guess we'll find out. I guess chat, if you guys find anything, please keep me up to date. Thanks, Matt. Thanks a lot. Awesome. Not Awesome Town, Matt. Just kidding. That'd be crazy. I hope he's not. I hope he's alive. That's wild. Thunderkeck is the name. So, what I wanted to talk about with this,
And then
with this Hive Mind find is how already Thompson was allegedly telling SG that it could be 3 years before you get an answer, and could just be because Thompson's aware of how long these cases take. But I'll play it again. I want you to listen to what Steve says about the evidence.
And then when this happened, I was like, who in Idaho would do this? Who would be capable of doing that in our community? And I remember talking to one of the officers. We've always tried to put some like emphasis on saying we appreciate all the hard work, everything that they've done, and we know that we would not have justice without those men and those women. You know, we were just in the court, a few weeks ago, and we got a little bit of time to talk to Thompson. And Thompson was, he said, it could be 3 years before you guys have any answers. And I was just like, wow, that's hard to hear. So,
What would you most like answered?
I want to just see the evidence, really. I just want them to come out and say, this is our case before, this is what they've got to prepare for. I mean, they have it, so let's just bring it out. I don't understand how that can be the truth. How can that be something that's going to continue?
So it is interesting how he said he talked to Thompson. Thompson said it might take 3 years. He's like, I just want to see the evidence. How can that be the truth? Let's just put it out there. Again, I wonder what changed. So I have seen the stuff with the DoorDash driver too. However, when I found out about it, I didn't have enough time to really prep for it. So that will be most likely in tomorrow evening's stream. And I will make a note to talk about that. So this is what See, I love getting Hive Mind finds now. Moving on to another email. This one was sent to me by Nicole. And Nicole, see, this is what I can appreciate about the Hive Mind is that this is critically thinking. This is so well thought out right here that I want to give a shout out to Nicole because it's not taking what myself and a handful of other people have talked about with the funding that WSU is receiving. It's not taking it at face value. So listen to what she says. She says the federal grant for the research BK is involved in paying for all of this. BK is in prison building profiles on the criminals and people incarcerated from the inside. Isn't the grant for behavioral pattern studies in a non-clinical environment? How much more non-clinical? He isn't a target because he looks like a killer. We may never really know what happened to those quote unquote killed that night because they're live dead, they can't speak. But again, who knows how deeply thought out an operation masked by funding in a college town unaliving could be. There are very, very smart people who do this stuff. Elite level people that are completely aware of how to manipulate media, manipulate people, manipulate narrative to get us to take things at face value. So, oh, Nicole, awesome. See, this is also one of the benefits of the Discord chat. Nicole just said, hi, this is me. This theory is also on the Discord. So that is what I'm looking forward to the most is we can continue to dive in even off stream. So that was really, really thought out, Nicole. I read that and I go, wow. I actually texted Devil's Advocates about it. I go, dude, could you imagine if that is what this is? So, you know, who knows? I mean, Luz says he doesn't have the social skills to do that. Maybe. But who told you he didn't have the social skills to do that? The news? The narrative? None of us know Brian Koberger. We've just been told he's this awkward loner incel like a broken record for the last 2 years. So we really don't know. And anybody that is using a Psy-Op, to Meg P's point, you guys think about anybody that the government uses, they're usually pretty weird. They're pretty weird. Maybe they're on the spectrum, actually. So who knows? But speaking of Psy-Ops, that was a perfectly timed comment. Let's talk about, again, what I would classify as like one of the 3 forbidden theories about the Idaho 4. One of the theories that gets people all riled up. One of the theories that makes people say, you're so disrespectful for thinking. You're so disrespectful for remembering that the government has lied to us on countless occasions where people said, this doesn't add up. This doesn't make sense. And they start to question everything. And then their character, who they are as a person gets attacked by the news. They get canceled. They get deplatformed. They get debanked, etc., etc. That's disrespectful. So I'm not going to shy away from leaning into looking through all the lenses. I know you all won't either. I understand that we don't know, but there is still something to be said and something to be learned about what it is our government has the capability to do. And I've said, if you don't think that the technology exists to stage a multi-victim attack and make the world believe that it happened, you're sorely mistaken. It's been done time and time again. I've said there's no photos of the bodies. There's no publicly released autopsy reports. There is no video evidence. The only thing we have is the news narrative. Now you can say the court case is ongoing. Yes. But when you have simple filings and everything is sealed for what never gets sealed in a homicide case, unless you're protecting somebody, even in the documents it states this will remain sealed. I believe it was under Title 18 to protect the one not named in case. Okay, that is not homicide talk. That is not. So, yeah, and to Bobcat, I mean, outside of just having to call the chat retards here, Bobcat, you make a good point. You could probably go without insulting everybody, but it could be a foreign occupation. It could be anything. A PSYOP doesn't just have to be done by the American government. Okay. So, what is a PSYOP? Because I do believe that it's a word that gets thrown out there, and not a lot of people, or maybe some people don't know, rather. So, the definition is a psychological operation, is a covert operation intended to influence emotions, motives, or behavior of populations to further government or military objectives. The purpose is to manipulate perception, manufacture consent, suppress dissent, or beta test control systems. As I'm saying that, does it sound like there's some things in the Idaho 4 case that line up to this? Well, to add some credibility to what I was just ranting about, as far as this happens, this has been happening. There are well-documented, public, mainstream PSYOPs that have been exposed. I compiled a list and I fit as many as I could onto this screen. So to name a few, we have, these are all confirmed U.S. PSYOPs, like I said, mainstream and documented. Operation Mockingbird, where the CIA infiltrated major U.S. media outlets to control public perception and shape narratives during the Cold War and beyond. MK Ultra, probably one of the most infamous CIA mind control programs that's been admitted to is real, that uses drugs, hypnosis, and trauma-based conditioning on unwitting subjects to explore behavioral manipulation. COINTELPRO, the FBI's, or COINTELPRO, whatever, however you want to pronounce it. The FBI's domestic operation to surveil, infiltrate, and neutralize political dissident groups, especially civil rights leaders like MLK and the Black Panthers. Operation Northwoods, which was proposed, I've shared this on the stream before, but it's a declassified Pentagon plan to stage false flag attacks on American soil to justify war with Cuba. This was rejected by JFK, and look what happened to him. Operation Chaos was a covert CIA program to spy on American citizens during the Vietnam War era, monitoring anti-war and civil rights groups under false pretenses. Gulf of Tonkin, I've said many times, this was completely fabricated. The U.S. government falsely claimed a second North Vietnamese attack on a U.S. ship that triggered full-scale Vietnam War escalation, which led to the death of millions on an event that did not happen. Operation Gladio, this is a NATO linked, but it's U.S. backed. It's a post-World War II stay-behind network that used false flag terrorism in Europe to maintain anti-communist sentiment. U.S. intelligence had deep involvement. I can never say that this name, but Naira testimony. It's a Gulf War PSYOP. It was a fabricated story about Iraqi soldiers killing babies in incubators used before Congress to justify U.S. intervention in Kuwait. Now, I'm only halfway through this list. Look at the depths that they will go to further an agenda. Moving on, the Pentagon Military Analyst Program in the 2000s, and this is where the DoD placed retired military officials on major news networks to shape public opinion during the Iraq War. Some of your favorite news anchors and talking heads. Go look into their background, chat. Tell me what you find. CIA influence on Hollywood. Documents confirm the CIA and Pentagon routinely shape film and TV scripts to promote pro-American narratives and sanitize controversial operations. The hearts and minds, PSYOP campaigns in Iraq and Afghanistan, the U.S. military distributed propaganda, planted fake news stories, and used social media to manipulate civilian sentiment during the Middle East conflicts. And a very popular one, maybe a little bit lesser well-known than it was a PSYOP, was the anthrax letters post 9/11. Bioterror attacks were initially blamed on foreign actors, but this was later tied to a U.S. Army biodefense insider, which helped pass the Patriot Act, everybody. So, God forbid Birdie and the Hive Mind say maybe the Idaho 4 is a psyop. Well, you're disrespectful. No, this shit is disrespectful. Excuse my language. This is disrespectful. This is BS. That's what this is. Think of how many millions of people died just from these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 things out of God knows how many these douchebags have done. Anyways, so the Idaho 4 being a modern American psyop, well, what would the goal of it be? It would be to evaluate how a population emotionally responds to a high-profile bloody trauma pushed in 24/7 media cycles. Test variables. So what are they looking at? Well, they're going to see, can they accept absurdity? And they tried, meaning, let's say they slept through 4 murders in an old, creaky college house with paper thin walls that when it gets torn down, one swiping motion of a tractor can knock it down. Will they question authority, meaning the delayed police response, the sealed affidavits? And do they beg for more surveillance, doorbell cams, AI threat detection, pre-crime analysis? And look, we've fallen guilty to some of these, chat. Where's the footage? Where's the footage? Well, all that does from a, if it is a psyop standpoint, it proves the point. The people, look, they want cameras. They want everything recorded. So it's very easy to see when you break it down in this manner. Moving on, usually a psyop will have correlation to other major events where the psyop is used to cover things up. And I tried to go back and find things that were going on during this time. We had the biggest crypto scandal ever with FTX. The Twitter files were dropping. There was starting to be Vax data leading to lawsuits. This dominated TikTok, Reddit, true crime podcasts. Millions were mentally fixated. You look at this picture, this is exactly it. It works on so many people all of the time. And just like the OJ trial covered Waco and Sandy Hook overshadowed Obama's NDAA signing, the Idaho 4 is a timing weapon. Now, I'm going to do a temperature check here with people that are caught up in our live. I want you guys to answer honestly. Type of 1, if from the jump you had suspicions of a psyop. Type of 2, if you're still not sure. Let's see what comes in. Again, I don't know how many people are live. Okay, so we got. Okay. Kind of split. A lot of 1s, a lot of 2s. I would have to agree that I'm probably split. I think that it has a lot of tendencies where if the tragedy happened, how could we attach other things to it and use that momentum in the news? It's a terribly disgusting thing to think about. But as I've said, you go back to this slide, it doesn't seem like anything is off limits, for God's sakes. Oh, where did my picture go? Oh, hang on. 1 second, chat. I got to get this. There we go. I got to get this right for y'all. So, again, timing correlation. In the past, there's always been massive psyops to distract and eat up the news cycle. You look at what would this result in, and it essentially is cementing the new normal in crime narrative, meaning you never know who's watching you. You need a camera on every home, and behavioral patterns will now become probable cause. And so the real agenda is introducing predictive policing, AI surveillance, and behavior-based threat scores, which goes back to what has been referenced only by a handful of people, and it's that Washington State was receiving millions of dollars in funding from the NIJ, the DOJ's research arm, for exactly this, everybody. I have my suspicions that this is exactly why Brian Koberger went to Idaho and transferred. Now, there's a couple of other things that I believe can go along with this. And to name another one, it's the use of IgG and it being a recognized legal loophole for the feds to get your DNA without a warrant. You look at it in this case. Well, what do you need to get a warrant? You need probable cause. What do you need for probable cause? You need some sort of evidence that actually will be considered probable cause in a legal document. Then you'd get the warrant. Then you'd get DNA. However, they couldn't get that. So they decided, meaning the feds, to break their own guidelines in a Supreme Court case where the death penalty is on the line to go and use a third-party DNA database and collect DNA from a trash can that linked it to a family member of the suspect, in which they did not have the warrant because they didn't have probable cause, because they probably didn't have enough evidence. Let's be honest. That's exactly what happened. Again, giant red flag. Tragedy and being able to emotionally palate something to catch somebody that's a monster that allows overreach on your legal rights as an American never just stops with that person. It will always, always, always ride the coattails through that case, and after the fact be made law and codified, where it does become the quote unquote new normal. So there are a handful of things. There's the geofencing aspect, where in the court documents, Brian Koberger's attorneys were trying to figure out if and why he was under surveillance prior to the crime. Well, on a smaller scale that maybe we can all digest, I've used this example. You can have any chain fast food restaurant app on your phone. For example, I'll use Jimmy John's because this happened to Mrs. Birdie and I. We walk into Jimmy John's, our phones give us a push notification. And that's because that app is running in the background. And when you go into a geofence, meaning an area that Jimmy John's declares is Jimmy John's whatever area, that anybody in this area is most likely going to be coming into Jimmy John's, we're going to push them an alert from their app to give them a discount or to let them know about our specials. Okay. So that's on a consumer level. That's on a business level. What happens when there's no app you need to download and the feds are somehow able to get that onto your phone? And let's say you cross a certain street or you go into a certain area and they'll just arrest you because they're going to assume you're in that area. Now, rather than giving you $2 off of a number 8, now we're going to arrest you because we think you're going to commit a crime. Okay. It's all predictive policing. It is the direction that a surveillance state would go and try and make the new normal. You also could go into even a darker and wilder, quote unquote, conspiracy. And that's, do you think that these databases that everyone spits in a tube in to see if they're part Viking, do you think those databases just throw away your DNA after they send you the results? Hell no, they don't. Hell no, they don't. They store it. Why would they store it? Do you think they'd ever sell that data? Kind of like people, certain websites will sell your data to other businesses to know what consumers want. What are the trends? What are the analytics? You don't think AI might have the ability to do that with people's DNA? That these people are more likely to say X, Y, do X, Y, and Z, whatever, and you combine that with geofencing, and then you just, there's so much shit that I don't know if people understand. It might seem crazy, but I would use the analogy of who would have thought 40 years ago you could FaceTime somebody across the globe, well, the globe, and communicate in real time. So, anyways, what I'm trying to get at is there is a lot of reasoning for, look at all of the things that a surveillance state, police state, federal overreach type of operation would have accomplished with the Idaho 4, and what we've seen play out in our eyes, along with all of the redactions and sealing in a Supreme Court case, which you would think would be on the up and up. And so many people just fall for the, well, we don't know everything yet. Well, we don't know everything yet. Okay. I've said this, and I'm going to get off this tangent in a second, but if this was a single loner incel who just transferred from Pennsylvania, didn't know anybody, was obsessed with serial killers, ordered a K-bar off of Amazon, stabbed 4 people to death, the roommates allegedly saw them, didn't touch them, didn't leave blood, but they have his car on the camera. They found all these clothes. They completely connected it to him. We would not see the most redacted court case in recent history. We would not see the ceilings. We would not see all of this weirdness. There is something larger taking place. So that's what I believe might be the WITSEC wild card, everybody. We've talked about this a lot. Now I'm going to use DM and BF. You can obviously apply it to other people in the chat. There's an argument to be made for a lot of the roommates in that house. But contradictory statements, protected identities. One of them was relocated to Nevada and refused defense testimony. The Psy-Op angle is that none of these weren't random roommates. They may be controlled assets, witnesses under WITSEC, or intelligence-linked individuals placed for narrative control. Now, if you want to go deep and think about witnesses under WITSEC, it does solidify a narrative with their behavior that they might be controlled. They might have been given training. The delayed 911 call may have been coached. You hear a lot of weird shit in the background of that call. Their stories make no sense. You could go a million different directions with it as to why there may be a delay. I think one that might need to be talked about more outside of, well, they weren't there and hotel checkout time isn't usually until about 10 or 11. By the time they pack up, get back to the house, figure it out, call their friends over, search for a job on Indeed, Snapchat, call their parents, go on Instagram, would make way more sense that they were doing this from a hotel room. And that maybe Dylan had seen somebody in their house on a Ring camera. And that's why she's so unsure of what she saw, what she heard. When Bethany says, run to my room, maybe she was talking about run to my hotel room, because they got an alert, just like you'd get if any of you have a Ring doorbell, the motion detection alerts, or if somebody rings the button, it'll go off and you can watch what the hell's going on. So that's just another angle. I will be on this channel tomorrow, 4 p.m. Central, with Kelly Peterson, who is a surviving victim of trafficking. So, guys, I just want to tell you, if I know it's a tough subject to talk about, her story is wild. Okay, 20 years of trafficking. Stories of now how she has been on the phone after the fact trying to help others escape, talking them through it. It is something that, if that's what you're into, it's a very, very intense story. Her book is available on Amazon. She's got the Kindle link as well. But yes, it's Surviving the Truth 1382. And then Kelly will be on my show mid-July. So with that being said, Phoenix, I'm sorry that it didn't work out with the audio. I'm going to see how long this interview tomorrow goes. If it's not a super, super long show, then I will be back on tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Central. And with that being said, I hope that everybody has a great night. As a reminder, I'm on Discord. The link is in my YouTube. And thank you all for tuning in today. Cheers, everybody.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life.